Hello everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I have a bit of a different video style for you today. It's another post-recorded one. I did these offense matches earlier in the day, but neither of them, spoilers, neither of them were particularly interesting to me to play or write out my thought process. Regrettably, I feel like both of my opponent's defenses were relatively easy to break through, so I'm just going to have my offense videos playing in the background, because I also wanted to talk a little bit about the Choose Your Legends 5 units. And now I know every Fire Emblem Heroes YouTuber has probably already covered this topic by the time I'm getting to it, but I wanted to give you a little bit of insight on what I'm thinking, not necessarily about the power level of these units, more so how I'm planning on dealing with them. Because I don't think I'm spending any orbs on this banner. I might spark one of them. I will probably just take a free Gatekeeper and call it a day. But I'm really more interested in how these units will affect my barracks, and this is not something that I will be doing for every banner going forward, simply because there's just too many banners in Fire Emblem Heroes for me to feasibly do this on the time schedule that I'm working with. But the Choose Your Legends heroes are always very powerful in comparison to the other heroes we get throughout the year. And with this update, these Choose Your Legends 5 heroes kind of set a new generation of units going forward. So there's going to be higher base stat totals, the BSTs are going to be higher, and from here on out, basically, Grail units are going to be more valuable. And this happens every year around Choose Your Legends time, so this is nothing new. Without further ado, I guess let's just get into talking about the 4 units. The reason why I'm not really interested in summoning for any of these is they're not really my favorites, and I play this game to play with my favorite units for the most part. That being said, these units, none of them are really my favorite. I like Marianne from Three Houses. She was a large part of my playthroughs in the Golden Deer and Blue Lions run that I did, but I was actually expecting her to be a tome flyer. So it was really surprising to see that she was actually going to be just an infantry tome pseudo dancer. We'll get to her in a second. Let's actually just start with, first things first, there was Marth, right? So Marth was the second place winner of Choose Your Legends 5. And of the 4 units, I think Marth and Marianne are the 2 that I'm least worried about in terms of power level. Because mostly Marth is giving himself and his allies a lot of visible buffs. I feel like he's going to be very powerful on something like an Astra season team with Ashera because of her Null Panic skill, which allows everyone to maintain their buffs without having them being negated. But with, I feel like the introduction of lull skills, Sudden Panic is a very good skill against him. So Marth is a unit that I'm going to be preparing for on my defenses, because I expect him to be on Astra offense teams. If he shows up on Anima defense teams, on defense teams in general, you guys know from my videos that Mordecai with his insane 76 or 73 HP or something like that, and Sudden Panic will just absolutely destroy anyone that Marth is giving these buffs to. I like Distant Pressure. I think it's a really cool skill. It's not frequent that we get a distant counter quote-unquote upgrade skill, and this feels really interesting for speed tanks. I think it's really, really interesting that you can inherit both Distant Pressure and Spurn 3 onto a unit from Marth, so I think he's got pretty good fodder there. Moving on, we have the unit, one of the 2 units that I'm most worried about. So we have Eirika, Brave Eirika, who took second place in the women's division of Choose Your Legends 5. And she is a prime example of what I've been talking about every counter to Fallen Edelgard that is added to the game is also kind of a counter to Kain, the Lion King, Mufasa, my unit, my Farsaber. And granted, I don't ever want to be in a position where Kain is saving in such a way that he would get hit by Brave Eirika, but the fact that she exists is just so terrifying. Because, and I haven't done the calcs on this, but I genuinely wonder if she survives a bonfire from Surtur, or if she survives a bonfire from Gustav. Because if she does, all of a sudden she threatens them so much more than a lot of the units that are already in the game. So I'm worried about seeing Brave Eirika on defenses. As to counterplay, I don't really have much in the way of thinking. As for counterplay, I'm really not sure exactly how I would counter this just yet. Perhaps something like a Svalin Shield build, but Svalin Shield just takes away so much from your A slot when you're using it, especially when you're close defense. Your near save tank really likes to use close defense 4, but perhaps with Eirika running around, it might be worth a team slot to have my near save unit have armor effectiveness cancellation. So having that Svalin Shield might be enough to save me from Eirika, but I'm genuinely not sure if it will. She just has a lot going on, and Sacred Stones was one of my earlier, I think it was the third Fire Emblem game that I played through. So I do have an attachment to Ephraim and Eirika and Leon, but not to the extent that I have with a lot of my Tellius characters. So that's pretty much the only reason why we're not summoning for her here. And then I think it was Marianne who came next, yeah. So Marianne's very interesting because she's a pseudo dancer. Her dance is tied to her special, and once she activates the special, which happens after combat, similar to like a Gale Force effect, she gives one ally within 2 space an additional action, but that ally will be affected by gravity, so they can't move more than the one they can only move 1 space no matter what type of movement they have. I see a lot of people frustrated or upset by this, and frankly, I think she's really cool. She's got like an offensive dancer thing going on. The only thing I wish would change is that I wish the special did extra damage, that boosted her damage in some way. Because right now she's just relying entirely on her own damage, and maybe that's fine. I'm probably going to be, if I were to spark on this banner, I would probably spark for her because she's in the colorless pool, and there's really nothing that I need from the colorless pool. I would probably summon on greens for Gatekeeper, and then try and spark for Marianne, basically. Speaking of, I didn't speak too much about Marianne because she's not a unit that I'm really worried about seeing. She functions similarly to a dancer. She's someone I would be considering on like a Gale Force style of team if I brought her onto like an Astra Gale Force team is something I could see her slotting into my barracks for. But on defense, I think because her special just does no extra damage, she has no way of piercing through like plus 23, plus 24 resistance. There's just no way she's going to be cracking through Kane's far save. So I'm not really worried. I don't need to think about counterplay for Marianne in that way. It's also very interesting that her dance gets around isolation. So seeing her on defense could be very interesting if you are a Milla or a Bridal Fjorm user, because she guarantees another action for a unit with the highest HP on your team within 2 spaces. So many conditions. And lastly, we're going to talk about Gatekeeper, or I think I'm just going to call him Bravekeeper from here on. I don't know if anyone else is doing that yet, but Bravekeeper. No one, and I mean, I was absolutely not expecting him to be a green tome unit. I thought he was going to be Lance Infantry for sure, so having this green tome unit was like really a breath of fresh air. Again, I didn't vote for Gatekeeper to be in the game, but I'm not sad that he is either. I think he's really powerful in a almost worrying way. Like, I am concerned. My body is concerned about the strength of just detailed report. Like, forget everything else. Literally forget everything else. I am just going to talk about detailed report. I think detailed report makes offense a lot easier. I think if you are a person who is struggling with offense at all, Gatekeeper is an easy pickup. He fills the role of that tanky mage that sits out in front while you have a backline tanky near saver. So I could pair this with Gustav, I could pair this with Pirate Surtur, I could pair this with Brave Hector, something like that. There's like a whole bunch of different combinations that people are already doing on Fire Emblem YouTube, right? You've seen people use Micaiah with like Black Knight. You've seen, I think Phaeology's Joel uses Spring Sharena with Black Knight. I've seen somebody else use Micaiah with, oh, it was Promise. Promise uses Micaiah with near save Spring Lucas. So if you're any of those people, right? Gatekeeper kind of fits that bill. He can sit out in front, he can tank the mages, and then let your near saver clean up anything that comes up to contest him. And that's really powerful. The only thing he suffers from, I suppose, is not being able to run Null Sea Disrupt because of his B skill. Unless there's Null Sea Disrupt in there, give me 1 second. If there's Null Sea Disrupt in there somehow, I might cry. Because that is so strong. And he's a support unit. And it's generally in gacha games. Just in general. It doesn't have to be Fire Emblem Heroes. It can be like, what? Genshin Impact. It can be Dragalia Lost. It can be this game, Fire Emblem Heroes, whatever, what have you. Support units are king. Support units are always the best because they tend to scale for a very long period of time. You will find that DPS units like Altina, like Uller, and this is no judgment to anyone who's summoned for these units, because again, if you liked those units, they're still good units. You can make anything work in this game. I have to stress that. You can make anything work. But if you want something that is like easier to work with, that you have to invest in less later on, typically a support unit fits that bill, because they can just sit in the back and buff everyone or help everyone succeed without having to do a whole lot of damage themselves. But Bravekeeper provides a whole lot of things. He just sits out in front, lets your near saver sit in the back, and he fits an already created strategy that is very powerful right now, which is save tanking. On top of that, he even protects everyone behind him with this detailed report, which is an extreme version of obstruct. And again, I'm a little worried because I think this pushes offense into like a very favorable position for Aether raids, and I don't know if that's where I want it to be, because I don't have a lot of merges on my offense mythics, nor do I have a lot of just defense mythics in general. So if offense is really strong, it means that a lot of people will be able to take down my defenses. So I have to make a really interesting defense that deals with Bravekeeper in some way, and that's something I'm a little worried about. Because again, with his his detailed report, it basically means that mages can't get behind him. They can't even move within 2 spaces of him. That's bonkers. Cannot move through spaces within 2 spaces of units. That's better than obstruct is right now. And then beyond that, he stops warping. So if you even wanted to, like, on an offense side of things, if you throw him out front, all of a sudden if you've been struggling with defense teams having Wings of Mercy, you're safe now. Similarly, if you've been struggling with your defense team, if Gale Force was too strong, you can also just plop him on defense, and he stops most Gale Force shenanigans. That is like a lot less worrying, because I feel like Guard is also a pretty good stop to Gale Force, so that's not like his detailed report isn't as impactful on defense, I feel like, as it is on offense, where it kind of hurts cav lines a lot. It hurts traps. It hurts like return traps. It hurts rally traps. It hurts legendary Sigurd a lot. It hurts Wings of Mercy strategies. There's just a lot. It's very interesting. I'm very curious as to how this next light season will shake up. And honestly, I know I've said this a couple times already since starting this channel, and we have been through hell and back on this channel already. But I do feel like this upcoming light season is going to be horrifying for me. I don't have the bonus mythic on offense. I don't have the bonus mythic on defense. And I don't know if I have the ability to take care of this Gatekeeper. I definitely need to do some calcs before tomorrow to kind of formulate a plan, because again, once 3 a.m. Eastern time hits, I think I'm just going to have to expect that a lot of people are going to choose Gatekeeper here. He did make it as #1 in Choose Your Legend, so there's a lot of people who voted for him. So I imagine there's also a lot of people who are going to pick him as their free pull. So I definitely need to figure out what's going on with my defenses by tonight. Anyway, that's all I have for you guys today. I've been Gifka, You've been awesome. I hope you have a wonderful end to your Astra season, and I will see you in tomorrow's video. Bye.